Welcome to The Sears Show. Join us as we explore medicine, health, mental health, mindset, and fitness, guided by lifelong seeker of knowledge, Sifu Raphael. He will lead us on a transformative journey with groundbreaking insights and extraordinary guests from around the world. Together, we'll dive into the latest holistic approaches to well-being and the profound connections between mind, body, and soul. Sifu Raphael's expertise in positive thinking, resilience, and personal growth will inspire you to reach new heights. Get ready for the Sears Show. It's time to embrace a brighter, healthier, and more empowered future.
5, 4, 0.
There we are. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is going to be an exceptional day. I have an amazing, amazing guest with me today. Let me go ahead and bring him on, Derick Johnson. Derick, how are you, my friend? How's everything going today?
I'm doing great this morning. How are you feeling, Sifu?
I'm feeling exceptional. Every day I get better by just a tiny little bit. And when I tell my clients or my members or anybody who is even listening, they're like, really? You can get better every day? I said, yes. You should have seen me yesterday. I was terrible yesterday.
That's what it's all about. 1%, minimum 1%. And then we feel good going to bed.
Yeah. Even if it's 0.5%, hey, I'll take it, you know?
Yeah.
So we have a great topic today is how to deal or even react to any situation. And, I want to take get your take on it. But first, I want to thank you for being, a service person who has taken time away from your life to protect our country. So thank you. Thank you for that. I truly am
appreciate it.
honored.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's get your take on what does it mean to, and how do we react to situations that may arise, whether they're in our control or out of our control?
That's a great question. So I always like to begin with, what is my reaction going to be? And am I giving everyone the reaction that they expect? They expect, as in, we can start with family. If you have that certain family member that always spoke to you in a condescending, negative way, maybe they do love you. Maybe that's just the way that they communicate. Some cultures and ethnicities are different. But with that being said, is if from the ages of 7 to 15, you always had a certain reaction, some family members still speak to you as if you're between that age group.
Yes.
And then like when you come home from college, from work, for the holidays, visit a certain family member, you can just sense the elephant and the tension in the room. So that example, a lot of people can relate to. So before they get out of their vehicle and walk to the house or whatever the location is asking themselves, am I gonna give them the reaction that they expect? They used to expect me to argue, yell, break down, storm out of the room, get really quiet and get reclusive, whatever the reaction used to be, making sure that you're not giving the reaction that they're expecting. Because some people, they're just looking to poke the bear and they want a reaction out of you. So just first pausing, and it's way harder than just talking about it until you do it many times. It's just like training a muscle. But once you can just simply pause and say, how am I going to react to this situation when it comes to family? When it comes to the boss that is maybe micromanaging, or that manager, when it comes to dealing with people in the general public. Yes, things are going to piss us off. Yes, things are going to be challenging. Yes, things will happen. But when we can harness and just pause for a moment and breathe and say, how am I going to react to this? Yes, we can feel those negative emotions, but not giving people what they expect is powerful. And it's always been interesting to me to watch the general public and just see who reacts to what. And you can usually sense who's going to be the calmest in a situation by their body language and just the way that they have their presence. And then the other person that's really loud and talkative and all over the place, like to each their own, but they're usually the ones that are overly dramatic in public and they might embarrass themselves. So going back to your question is pausing, breathing, and saying, how am I going to respond to this? And will I allow this person to have control of me and my reaction to said situation?
I love the way you took us from the way I used to react to I've grown up a little bit, right? Because when
Yes.
we were kids, we used to get mad, we didn't understand. So a lot of times people react because of fear
Yes.
of knowledge. Maybe they don't know what's going on, and this is how they know how to do. They throw a temper tantrum like we were 2 years old, right? We just
Exactly.
we didn't get our way, so we reacted. One of the things that, and I love that you brought that up because we do change, and that's what we talked about even in the beginning when we said we improve a little bit, right? So our
Yes.
communication skills should improve. If you still talk the same way when you were 10 years old and you're 38 years old, there's some growth that needs to happen, right?
Yes, for sure. Because too many people carry that with them into every relationship,
Mhm.
friendship, the professional environment, work environment, and then they just react to everything all day. They react to social media. They react to the guy that cut them off in traffic. Yes, it
Mhm.
might be a 10-second interaction, but they carry that anger the rest of the day. And in the afternoon, they're like, you won't believe that guy that cut me off this morning. It's like, that was 7 hours ago. And it was a 10-second iteration. Yes, I'd be pissed off too, but like, you're going to let that guy or that woman, whoever it was, control your entire day and your entire attitude. And
Mhm.
then it's very common for people to carry that with them. And then they take that home. They're at the dinner table with their loved ones. They can feel that energy. Nobody wants to be around them. And if they really zoom out and say, what got me into this situation? The guy in traffic, this, that, whatever it was. And it's like, wow, we're giving these people power and control over us. So I think is Confucius or another philosopher that has a quote that says, whoever you allow to make you angry has control over you. They are your master.
Mhm.
I'm paraphrasing it, but it's something along those lines. And it always stood out to me. And going back to childhood, I was that person who the master was the parents, and I would give them that reaction, that aggression, that yelling and all that. And just to zoom back and to see your growth within, and you're like, wow, I used to react this way with this family member or in the military or whatever it was. But not giving people what they expect has been one of the most powerful things that I've done for myself, my friends and clients, where we're all just more calm and controlled. Yes,
Mhm.
we still get emotional. Yes, we still might
Yes.
have internal outbursts. We're human, but as long as we can control that reaction, we can control the situation, excuse me, and the outcome much more.
Yeah, yeah. I love everything you've been talking about, and it brought me back when you talked about childhood and how you were that person. I don't think most people would be able to react to me if I acted the way when I was a child. Because when I had a temper tantrum, I used to bang my head on the wall.
Oh,
Can you
wow.
imagine if I'm in a meeting and all of a sudden somebody angers me and I just go to the wall and start banging my head into the wall? How would people react? It
Yeah,
wouldn't
they
be
would just,
cool.
they just think you're on a ton of drugs and like, all right, we got to
Yeah.
get out of here.
But it's very interesting because and I guess that's why I'm thick-headed, if you will, because I literally, and I'm Colombian, it was in Colombia that I did this. And the walls were not built out of sheetrock like they are here. They were solid concrete walls. And I used to bang my head in the wall. I never bled, I never got hurt. So we think, right? So,
Yes.
and what my family wound up doing after many, many years of me doing this is they actually held me down in the courtyard and they poured buckets and buckets of cold water over me.
Wow.
And no matter how much I screamed, they just kept me there. They held me down, kept one after the other. I thought I was going to drown standing, right?
Yes.
And then they did it for such a long time. I can't even recall how long it was. Then they let go of me and they left. They left me to myself. And I was crying. I went because it was outdoors. I went, it was an indoor outdoor courtyard. And I
Okay.
went behind a couch and I cried myself. And I never did it again because
Powerful.
they left me to myself to understand what did I do, why. But you know what? I think the most powerful thing there was the cold water. So now I
Yes.
take cold showers every day.
Good. Awesome. And it's
but
amazing
what?
how those things can be ingrained in us. Me taking a
Mhm.
cold shower has a whole different meaning than you. We flash
Yeah.
back to a memory, and it's amazing what that can do to you.
Yeah, yeah. So, the other thing I believe is how we handle any situation is how do we show up to that situation, even if it's unexpected, right? So I I come open-hearted. So I come without judgment. And you
Yes,
talked about, your uncle or whoever that, they've treated you certain ways, and the way you calmly come into the situation. And you also, I believe, we need to learn to forgive, because that forgiveness is because we've grown, we've adapted. We know that
exactly.
they may talk to us that way, but we know they love us. So let's not take the negativity, but take the positivity out of every situation. And even if you come and you start yelling and cursing at me, I'm like, somehow you must love me.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And honestly, a lot of people are just projecting. And when people
Mm,
can see that they can pause for a moment with their reaction, but see that sometimes those people are going through their own things. They're facing their own demons. Maybe they're not happy with themselves. But when somebody can truly take care of themselves and put ourselves first, so an example,
mm,
morning routine. This morning, like here at 6:45, I worked out, I walked my dog, hydrated, I'm calm, I'm excited about the day, and I'm just going to be flowing all day.
mm,
Not everyone does that. I highly recommend the morning routine, and it's something so basic, but people they overlook it because they stay in bed, they hit snooze 5 times, anxiety goes up, I'm late, I'm dehydrated, I drank this coffee, my heart rate's up because I'm dehydrated, and then it's like they're stacking all this stuff, and then they're reactive all day long. So if and when anything happens, it's like the icing on the cake, and they just
mm,
either explode or they implode. But if they
mm,
really zoom out, they're like, I didn't control my morning, so everyone in the world had control of me. So when anything happens, they'll blow it out of proportion, but it's usually stems from them not utilizing their own morning routine or just harnessing their own energy and taking care of themselves because they feel like they're pulled in all directions and everything is in a reactive state in the morning, throughout the day. But if they really just look at it and say, how long have I owned my mornings? Like that first 30 minutes or first hour of the morning, how consistent have I been on that? 1 day a week, 2 years straight, whatever it is, or it hasn't been in years since they play sports. But if they can look at that, that usually is one of the bases of why people react so much because they don't have control of themselves. They haven't been consistent with exercise, with their mentality, with their faith, whatever their self development routine is. But when they lack that, they're going to lack their reactions and responses to situations and people. So I would always zoom out for a second and ask ourselves, pushing pride and ego away and saying, have I been taking care of me? Or
mm,
has the world just been controlling me and I'm just looking at it in a negative way? Because there's a quote, one of my favorite quotes is, the world is not as it is, the world is as you are. The world is not as it is, the world is as you are. So if we are calm, collected, in control of our energy, we see nothing but opportunities, positive people, good outlook. But if we don't have control, then we watch the media and we're just gonna be reactive to everything. The world sucks. It's Wednesday. I'm so ready for Saturday, and it's whole different views. So it's always been interesting to me to like just people watch and zoom out and be in neutral. And it makes a lot of sense where nowadays I see that people overcomplicate things because there's so much information overload on these devices. They scroll,
mhm,
he's saying this, and where it's just like, let's just pause and go back to the basics. Do I own my routine? Do I consistently spend time in nature? Like on my walk earlier, it started raining and my dog was laughing like and smiling and I was just laughing and it felt good. It was therapeutic. It wasn't
mm,
storming. It was just light drizzle. We came home, we were excited, we played, and it was just funny. Like a 15-minute walk just felt good and it was therapeutic. So going back to the people is like, have they had those interactions, feeling nature and just being present, taking care of themselves, and then they'll show up better.
mhm. When we consider, you have a morning routine, I have a morning routine, it's incredible how many people don't. it's incredible to me how you talked about growing, getting better, doing things for yourself, being calm, taking your ego out of it. There's so many people who don't do anything.
Exactly.
Their morning routine is complain first thing. Oh, this hurts, that hurts, and then this coffee doesn't taste as good as it did or should be, or my breakfast. So the first thing is they do, they pick up their phone, or they I gotta go to work. No, I get to go to work. I get to listen. For me, one of the first things this morning, I was up. I usually get up between 4:30. I was up half hour before my alarm. I don't know why I put alarms on, but I was up anyway. So the first thing when I noticed I'm up, first thing I go through is my gratitude. I do my prayers. I am the most luckiest person in the world. Why? I'm alive. Wow. Thank God
Exactly.
I'm alive. I can move my fingers. I can move my toes. I can actually get out of bed. I don't take any medications. I never have my whole life. Why? Because my actions reflect my todays and my tomorrows. What I've done 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, yesterday is going to help my today. So
Oh, yes.
every day when I take on an action, is it serving me? Because before I can help you, I need to help me. Always me first. And it's not being selfish. It's the more me I can take care of, the more of you I can take care of. So in order for me to
100%.
help many people, I have to come first.
I totally agree with that. And society sees when you put yourself first, they see it as selfish, and the whole
Mm,
view of it is skewed. Where it's like, no, it actually makes you selfless when you show
mm,
up better. Your energy, vibration, aura, whatever someone wants to call it, you're just emanating good energy, and you're positively affecting people instead of negatively infecting them. And people can just sense that the way somebody carries themselves. It doesn't matter if they're 4'1" or 6'5". Like they just carry themselves in a presence, and you're like, wow, he or she is on point. They're focused. They're driven. They haven't even said a word. They're just like,
mm.
they have this look in their eye where I love seeing that in public when you're like, yes, that's rare to see because most people are like this, or they're just stuck in their phone. And then you got to like hold them so they don't get hit by a car because they're not even looking crossing the street. People are just like in la la land, but
Yeah.
it's funny, it's sad, and it's scary all in one because
Mm,
most people are never actually present in the moment and don't really notice what they're doing. Everything is on autopilot, and it's usually an autopilot in a negative way, and it's not serving them. Where if they can just snap out of whatever routine they're in and just realize that these devices, these negative thoughts, these intrusive thoughts, all these things control them and how they act. But if they can go back to the basics of harnessing their morning routine and working on those things, I would always challenge people just to do two things: one for the body, one for the mind. The
mm,
body could be a walk, a run, hit the weights at the gym, whatever their preference is. And then for the mind, prayer, meditation, or visualization, all three work. But if we just first move the body a little bit and open our mind first, we can flow. And then going back to what you said is that gratitude. It's
mm.
absolutely right that people wake up and first complain, or it's just like, come on, we have the air condition on, we have this, we have copious amounts of food in the fridge. You have all this stuff to be grateful for. Somebody else would literally kill to be in your situation. So sometimes we just got to zoom out and humble ourselves and say, you know what? Life is not that hard. What are we complaining about? Slow Wi
Mm.
Fi, traffic, small things, where we just add up to small things. But it's just all about perspective, where it's awesome to see people that have a positive outlook on the world and that are able to positively affect people. And then
Mm.
on the flip side, you realize how many people need help to just snap out of it, where they're just like on a timeless loop of just bad energy. And it's sad to see, but the good thing is that more people are starting to be more aware, where they're like, wow, I'm drawing the line. I'm no longer going to allow myself to do XYZ. And those are powerful moments when people are like, I'm no longer living this way. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Derek, I think that a lot of people listening to this show, even if they hit the replay, probably want to know how to get in touch with you. So when you have a second in the private chat on the right, just put your contact information with your website, wherever, so that
Okay.
people can get in touch with you. Because you're speaking so much about how we need to show up, but the most important thing is everything you've spoken about seems like you teach it, you live it. You are, a lot of people teach things, but they don't do it. I
Exactly.
can tell you live what you're teaching. It's part of who you are. It's just embedded in you. And I appreciate that. That's why I'm excited that you're on the show today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
I
For
appreciate it.
me, it's connections, right? It's connections. It's how can I help somebody? And when I show up to a situation, let's say something really tragic has happened. Most people just they want to stop and they want to because they're curious as to how horrible it is instead of
Yes,
curious as to how can I be of help. Most people they see two people fighting, instead of trying to break it up, they pull their phones out because hey, I can put it on my social media. Or if they see somebody really hurt or somebody even robbing somebody, instead of trying to help, they pull their phone out and they
exactly.
just, oh, I got this on video, cool for me. Meanwhile, they didn't do anything to assist another human being. Because in this world, we need connections, but I also believe that we need to be connected for real, not
Yes.
to your social media only.
Yes, exactly. I made a post earlier about being more intentional about our social media, as in meeting people, or excuse me, following pages that inspire you, motivate you, make you smile, make you laugh, building real relationships, literally just bringing
Mm,
the social aspect back to social media instead of just the attention or the monotonous, and realizing the power that's in our hands. I mean, even the only reason we're here today is because of a social media platform and other platforms and emails and all that. It's like you can get connected with the right people, have quality conversations, and flip the whole script where you don't see it in social media in a negative way, and you're utilizing it more so to build relationships and to learn and to communicate and all that. So I always tell people, like, the device in your hand will either elevate your life or keep you stuck in an endless loop,
mm,
because most people, they just don't have control of their attention, because everything and everyone wants their attention, whether it's in a positive way or negative way. But the media, people on social media, the ads that we see, whatever it is, everybody wants your attention, your kids, your dogs, everything and everyone. So asking that person, do you have control of your attention, or are they just reactionary all day?
mm,
So just tapping out of that, really zooming out to say, wow, do I do this mindless loop of scrolling and like doing a cycle of tapping these apps, or am I intentionally opening it? So like I'll use an example. When I'm on my break between coaching calls or whatever I'm doing, I'll say, you know what, now I'm going to go on YouTube and just watch some funny videos for 10 minutes, tap out, or I'm going to go on a walk and be intentional. Or when I open up this app, I'm going to check on people or be inspired by this page that has beautiful homes, whatever it is. But if
mm,
you're more intentional about the smallest things that you do, you'll have way more power, because everything just literally just goes back to the basics, where we don't have to overcomplicate it and say, my situation, nobody will understand it. And it's really sad to see how common that is, where people feel alone. But if they start to have real conversations with people, they realize that so many people relate to them, maybe not in the exact way, but in a similar way, where it goes back to what you said, building those relationships and just communicating with people,
mm.
where that one conversation can change your life or theirs. We've all had a moment or a day where we were angry, we were sad, and somebody approached us in the grocery store, at a gas station, just maybe said one thing, gave us a compliment, hey, nice shirt. Or they just ask us why we chose this drink over that drink in the checkout line. And you have a conversation, and they start telling you about the grandma and they used to make that drink. And like, you had a moment, you go back to your car and you're like, I don't even know how they approached me. I was pissed off today, or really in a low place, but they made your day. And we can do that more for others. So talking to strangers, the opposite of what we hear when we're children, but nowadays we can just have solid conversations with people. It's so rare, because nowadays when people get around each other, is they just look at their phone because they have social anxiety and they get scared. So
Mm,
like here in our building, we have an elevator and just a ton of people that live in this building. And so any elevator I'm in, whether it's here at the airport or wherever, I'll always like say something to somebody. I'll crack a joke, or I'll just like do this thing acting like the elevator's moving and to just make them laugh or make them
right.
jump. But I just have to break the ice. I hate that uncomfortableness where everybody starts looking at their phone because we're all fumbling and nervous.
Yeah.
I always like to kill that energy and just make somebody smile or like get them present in the moment. And it's interesting to see them shift where they're like, oh, wow, I haven't had a real conversation with somebody in a while, or they're like just in their head. So I challenge people to do that. Just start with no intention to get a reaction, is just to give kind gestures and kind compliments in public. Hey, nice shirt. Hey, why'd you choose this over that? Those small things can turn into a good conversation or simply make their day, where you just get out of your head for a moment and just show up for others.
Yeah. You know, a lot of times I'm like you, right? And I think you and I are very much alike, because I will say something to someone or I will smile at them, and they have a facade in front of them, right? And they're like stern and like they won't even smile back. And I'm like, hey, have a great day. They're like, I'm like, okay, I guess do the best you can do.
Exactly.
One of the things is a smile doesn't cost you a thing, but it can make a world of difference to someone who maybe you don't know. Maybe they lost a loved one, a pet. Maybe they got fired. Maybe they just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Here's the thing. If we can share a little bit of joy every day, and if more people shared it, we may change the world one smile at a time, right?
Oh, yeah.
One genuine nice gesture at a time. A lot of people, they always say, hey, can you do me a favor? And most people respond, sure, what are you going to do for me? It's like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
that's not a favor.
Exactly.
That's not a favor. So when we encounter any situation, and I've actually, I've been called into situations. I have a large martial arts school, and one of the rooms I was teaching kung fu, and the other room somebody was teaching kickboxing, and they ran like crazy to me, and because it's in a different room, and then they said, hey, can you come? Somebody's hurt. I'm like, okay. They said that they popped their shoulder out. I said, okay. And they expected me to run. I'm like, no, I'm calm. I walked over and I said, which shoulder? And this one. I said, okay. I popped it out. I said, how's that feel? Move a little bit. Okay, good. All right, great. See you later. And they were like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you run in there and handle the situation? I said, I did. First of all, I didn't want to make the person nervous that popped their
Exactly.
shoulder out. I wanted to let them know that it's going to be okay. So the way I reacted was different than what they expected.
For sure.
I fixed many broken noses because of, I teach martial arts, I teach
Yes, exactly.
fighting, right? And about a couple of, maybe like 6, 7 months ago, a young man doing a pull-up, he tried to do a muscle up and he went up, and on the way down, he did it. He went up. He didn't know how to come down, so he came down on top of the bar, broke his nose. There's blood everywhere. So I just look, I was about to enter the room, and I go, oh, so there's blood in here. I said, what happened? Because I didn't see it, and he broke his nose. And then there's a girl there, she's hysterical. And I said, okay. I said, let's throw your head back a little bit. Let me get a cold compress on your forehead, and let's clean up this. And I said, looks like you have a broken nose. I can fix it, but because you're a minor, I need your mom's or your dad's consent. Where's your mom? So we get mom on the phone. She rushes over. I said, I can fix it. No. I'm going to take him to the emergency room. Okay. So she takes him. It took her, this was like 8:30 at night. She didn't get home the next day till about 10 o'clock in the morning. They never fixed his nose. Now, they said you have to take him to a specialist. She took him to one of these emergency places. Then she went to the emergency room, and then they're like, oh, we don't want to mess things up. Later on, the dad, who's a fighter, and the kid still never got his nose fixed, so he's got a crooked nose now. And great kid, he just didn't understand how the exercise he was doing. His
Yes.
dad said, I wish he would have called me because I know you and I would have told you to fix his nose. I said, okay. And then he goes, you now have my, if he ever breaks his nose again or anything else, you can do whatever you need to do.
Yes.
Because he knows how calm I am, how collected I am, and I wouldn't have fixed his nose if it was not going to be good for him. So,
Yeah,
but I
exactly.
also did not. I walked into a situation that I didn't act because it's not up to me; it was up to the parents. So sometimes we have to ask for permission to
Yes.
interject, right? And even with when I popped that girl's shoulder back, I said, "Is it okay if I put your shoulder back in place?"
Yes.
And she said, yes. But sometimes we have to ask for permission when we walk into a situation. Now, if somebody's, you know, passed out and they're not breathing, you can't you
Yeah,
can't
for
ask
sure.
for permission, right? You have to do the right thing for them. But it's always about how we enter into a situation. Do we come calm, collected, or do we panic and freak out and maybe do the wrong thing?
Oh yeah, exactly. I appreciate you sharing that experience. And that right there shows the control of making the person who might be injured calm. Because if you go in
Mm,
there running, they're going to think worse. And then you're going to make them feel worse. Their heart rate goes up and everybody's panicking. Where
mm,
I've had many of those experiences as well, where they're like, "Dude, you're so calm in these situations." And they're thinking about the reaction of the person that's coming to help and the speed and all this. It's like, you guys are forgetting about the most important person in the room right now, which is the person on the floor. If all of us are up in arms and doing all this, they're going to think, "Oh my God, it's 10 times worse." And then they could pass out, they could have a seizure, it could get much worse.
mm,
But I've had many of those situations as well playing sports. Somebody would break their leg or break their arm, and all those situations where it's like, all right, assess the situation. What are we going to do? Go from here. And then you notice that a lot of people, they freeze. They freeze in
mm,
panic. Other people run because they can't see blood or a broken
right.
bone. And then there's others that are very, very rare that are calm, collective, and they control it, and they can just guide people. Hey, you go over there and get that. Hey, you call this, or and then they control the situation. Then after the fact, they're like, wow, if you weren't here, all of us would have just froze up. And then, like you said earlier, you have the person that's just like taking pictures and videos that's like, all right, you're useless right here. Like at least the other person is giving them positive feedback and all that. They can't physically help, but this person over here is just causing a ruckus, posting on social media.
Mm,
But yes, so our reaction to those situations, the calmer the person and the individual, the more you can control that. And it's so interesting to see, even like in terms of if somebody has dogs, like I have a pit bull, and some people they see that breed and they're scared. And then
mm,
their little dogs, their chihuahuas, it's usually the small dogs that try to like bark at the big dogs. But
right.
usually like those owners have zero control of those small dogs. And I'll
Mm,
just look at them calm. My body language is calm. My dog's not barking. She might do this little whimper, but that's it. And they're the ones that are looking all weird, and I'm calm. Their dog is pulling all over the place, jumping on the leash or not on the leash. And I just pick my dog up, just keep walking, just give them the
mm,
head nod, and then kind of just give them that look like, hey, control your dog.
yeah.
Years ago, I would have been like, hey, grab your freaking dog. Like, what are you doing? But that doesn't always help because most people, they just don't have control of the situation. But if you can just react in a calm way, the animals will feel it, the kids will feel it, the person injured on the floor will feel it, and you control the situation more. And the people that were involved in it, they're going to reflect on it and say, wow, I didn't do anything, or I overreacted. And then they see your calmness and are like, huh, I want some of that calmness. Like, I need to show up to situations more like he did or like she did. So just being that example in those situations where people can see that calm and collective, control the situation, and people trust them more. But it's always been interesting for me to see. I like to think about the analogy of when you're on an airplane. If people have traveled and they've been on an airplane, they saw that drunk person on the plane who already drank at the bar before getting on the plane. And you can just tell, like, oh, this is going to be an interesting flight, because
Mm,
the guy's ranting, the guy's yelling at the stewardess or the flight attendants and all this, causing a ruckus. Everybody in that moment is going to look around the plane to say, who's going to save the day? Who's going to save the day? And
right.
they can just sense the male and the female that have the calmest body language. They just give each other that head nod. And they're like, if we need to, we're going to put them in that chair, put them in the seatbelt, wrap them up, and just let them be there. But it's always interesting. People are looking around. Some people are looking like really panicky. Some people are just taking videos, and others, they're giving people that acknowledging look like, hey, if we need to, we'll apprehend him, put him down. So there's no bigger issue, but it's always interesting to see people's feedback in those moments where we can just zoom out and say, who has control, who has zero control, and who's just going to freeze or run.
Yeah. You bring up an extremely good point, because there's lots of commercials about don't drink and drive. We should start a new one, don't drink and fly.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's almost incredible. And you're right. Some people react very differently. Some people are very giddy and funny and loving when they're drunk. And then you have your bad drunks that are very violent. Meanwhile,
Yes.
if they were not drinking, they're a sweetheart. They're a big bear. They love to hug. The minute liquor hits them, it's like Jekyll and Hyde. It's like, what is
Yes.
going on?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm wondering if that probably should be the next wave of things that should not be allowed on an airplane, should not be allowed in the airport, because
Exactly.
there are so many people who can't handle their liquor.
For sure. And
Can
honestly,
you imagine
it
if
causes
you're
one
on
of
a
the biggest
plane?
issues.
Oh yeah, imagine you're on a plane. Let's say somebody's just so drunk that they turn around and throw up on you because they drank that much.
Exactly.
Who's liable? Right? Is it the airplane who served them liquor? Is it the restaurant at the airport? Because you have to be at the airport at least 2 hours before your plane.
Oh, yeah.
So where did you drink? Right? And
Exactly.
you can't bring more than 3 ounces anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
I totally agree with you. And with that is that most people, they'll drink to overshadow something. They're stressed, they need to take the edge off, or they're scared of heights, they're scared of planes, where to each their own. Some drink to celebrate, and
Right.
not condoning what people do with their life, but in general is that it's usually just used as a coping mechanism, and whatever's internally happening will erupt from that. And so if people can just make better decisions in those situations and just know themselves, if you know yourself that you're going to react a certain way, drinking or doing this in public, or how you're going to show up to this event or wherever, what can I control? If people can focus more on what they can control and their reactions, they'll feel like they can harness that energy much better to always be proud of the outcome. I like to think of an analogy, and what I talk to my clients about a lot is at the end of each day, pretend that you have to watch a time loop video of yourself. Will you be proud of the person that you saw? So it's like a fast forwarded video. It's like, here you went, you woke up, you walked to the fridge, you did that, you went to work. Like, you just watched this video. Will you be proud of what you saw? And it's a yes or no. There's no in between.
Right.
So more so leaning towards, how can I say yes more often? And everybody knows what they should and shouldn't do, but it's more so that everything is on autopilot that's drifting them away from their goals, or autopilot where they're just so focused and driven heading towards their goals. But if they can start to zoom out and perspective hop, they can be less self-judgmental and just say, you know what, I need to tighten up. I need to do more of this or less of that. Let's really get serious about my life in this situation, so I can show up better for others. So my reaction as well, so I can lead by example and just not be so reactive in everything. Because the calmest, most controlled people, they're always the best leaders. They can communicate better. They're better active listeners. They can read the room and say, all right, today we might need to crack the whip in this meeting and get everybody hyped up. Okay, today we might just need to ask what is on everybody's mind. Like, the calmer that they are, the better they can assess the situation, to read the room and show up better. On the flip side, the leader, quote unquote, or the manager or boss that doesn't take care of themselves, they just come in there pissed off. Oh, happy Monday, guys. Last week we didn't hit our numbers in this. And you're like, we're 30 seconds into a Monday meeting and you're ready. You just ruined the whole morale for everybody. But those are usually just the people that they're not taking care of themselves, and they're allowing their pride and ego to be in the way, opposed to saying, what did I not give my team? Did I give them the tools? Do they need more training? What is it that they're missing? Starting off like that, calm, and just getting their feedback and then going from there. And then after the fact, then you can say, all right, guys, now let's meet our numbers. But you don't do that in the beginning. But all that stems back to the individual, male or female, that is a positive and empowered leader, rather than the others who they just react to everything. Even if they are in a high position, nobody likes to work for that person. They're micromanaging. They're just so aggressive. Like, it's unnecessary, but it has always interested me to see that, reading the room and just being that positive example for others, showing up in the right way by taking care of yourself. And I truly believe it all starts with that morning routine. Do I put myself in a good headspace? Does my body feel good? Because I have control of what I consume, what I eat and drink, and what I put in here. So like, are they waking up watching the media? Are they listening to breakup songs at 6 a.m. driving to work, like half crying, like thinking about the past? All these small things matter. So what are they allowing into their mind and into their body that's going to help harness that energy?
So I'm listening to our whole conversation, even what I've said, what you've said. And if you just follow some of the things that we've said, you will be able to react to any situation and make it a positive outcome. One of the things I've always said is that there is a solution to every problem, no matter how big. Because if you go back in history, because I believe in order to live in the present, you need to know the history. You need to
Yes.
know what's happened, how people have handled things. I love problem solving because it's probably already been solved before, maybe differently. But if I study some history, how things have been handled, and I study the present, and then that's how I can set up for my future, for my tomorrows.
Yes.
But understanding all those things, that no matter how big of a problem another person may have or I may have, there is a solution. It may take a little time. It may take a long time. But as long as we're diligent and we show up correctly, that we can handle any situation, and we can help someone else handle the situation, even if it's not ours. So thank you for everything you've been saying today. It's been great.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I hope somebody can take away one of these golden nuggets. That's what I refer to it as. Any podcast I listen to, any book I read, I'll just try to take one or two things away from it and utilize that so I can improve myself. And just challenging that individual. Do I have the skill to push my pride and ego away? Or am I standing in my own way? And I'm being younger version of Sifu. Am I hitting my head against the wall because I'm in my own way? So making sure that you're not that person, and just always improving, as you mentioned in the beginning, getting better every single day. And if people really zoom out, they see that it is the basics and the smallest things that add up to the bigger picture of their entire life. Where nowadays people overcomplicate things, or some of these gurus on the internet, they try to confuse everybody and make them feel like they have the secret. And they're like, oh my God, I can't figure this out. There's this new thing, this new thing, this new thing. It's like the basics. What time do you wake up? How's your morning routine? What do you eat? What do you drink? What are you consuming? Who do you allow in your life and in your space? Like all these things, going back to the basics. Do you spend time in nature? Have you lacked on your faith? Have you lacked on your mental health? Just going back to just you, taking care of you so you can show up better for others, because people can sense that. And what you mentioned earlier, I love that you mentioned that some people, they just teach from theories or they just talk, but they don't live it. You can sense that in somebody, because just as kids, we do as we see, not as what somebody says. So if somebody can sense and see that we actually do these things, then it's different. They're like, wow, I really like how he or she does this. And they can start to emulate that in their own way, which just has a positive ripple effect. So I always ask people, are you positively affecting people with that ripple effect, or are you negatively infecting them? Because if you cuss that lady out at the store, she's going to be angry. She's going to take it out on her kids. Her kids are going to be pissed off. And it's just going to be one downward spiral that trickles and infects everyone. But in the positive side, if you make that person's day in public, make them smile, laugh, motivate somebody, they're going to go higher in their vibration and energy. People around them are going to say, wow, you're showing up differently. And then everybody wants to level up. And that's the best thing to see, because everybody's like, yes, let's all get better. They're excited about life. They have an energy, where I just challenge people to do more of that. But it all starts with you.
You know, I love the ripple effect, because imagine you're in traffic and you cut somebody off and you give them the finger, and then 2 months later you go to a job interview and they recognize you. They're like,
Like, hey,
hey, you gave me the finger. No, I was telling you, you're number one. But it's
yeah,
different, right? Because that you can't get away from your actions, because believe it or not, everyone is watching, whether they have their smartphones out or they will mention you to someone and say, hey, I saw this person, that guy Sifu Raphael, and he did this or he did that, or he treated someone like this. That right there shows how small the world is. I've literally been in other places that I would never imagine someone would have seen me. Later
yes,
on, they're like, hey, I heard you were in so. I'm like, really? That's
yeah,
pretty cool. And how did you know that? Oh, my friend met you. Wow, cool. And you guys, you had a great conversation, whatever it was, right? But so I'm always aware that my actions will either take me far or keep me in my place, right?
exactly,
And I'm looking to go far. Right?
100%.
Every day, my travels allow me to impact someone's life in a positive way, because I can also impact them negatively. And like you said, you can impact a person in a great way or a negative way. So it's how you show up. And I think how you show up will let people know, hey, you know what? We can count on Derick. When he
Exactly.
says he's going to be somewhere, boom, he is there. We can count on his actions. We can count on him. We can actually ask his advice, because he doesn't just say, do what I say, not what I do, right? He actually does what he says. And so that makes a huge difference.
Oh
I
yeah,
think a lot of people don't put their intentions with their actions,
exactly.
you know?
A lot of things is just mindless and then just reactions, just being reactive to the situation, like after the fact. It's always like, oh, I should have done this better, or I should have ate this morning. It's always after the fact where they reassess it. So it's just like, just pause for a moment and control what you're going to do in the morning or before that situation when you would normally erupt. Grab that bottle, grab that thing, whatever somebody's vice is, and knowing, do I turn into a good person after this, or will I regret this and have another year where I'm like, oh, I'm never drinking again, and just have a repetitive cycle. But being able to break those cycles and identifying, and it all starts with having the power to push pride and ego aside, because most people can't do that. They can't sit with their own thoughts. They're always trying to mask things or be so busy or mindlessly scroll because a thought is coming in. And all it is the conscience is saying, hey, maybe you should lose 10 pounds. Hey, maybe you should start networking more. Hey, maybe we should work on our public speaking. Whatever it is, your conscience is already speaking to you. But most people, when they sense the conscience is saying something, like, no, no, no. And then they run and they do whatever. And then that's why they're so so reactive to everything. But if they can just pause for a moment and say, you know what? I need to improve. What can I do? I need to put this down. I need to exchange this with that, which is more empowering and positive or healthy. And then I can positively affect people, because if I'm not taking care of me, I'm going to bring that energy, and you can only fake it for so long because people will see through it, especially if a moment arises. They might snap on everybody and they're like, whoa, I thought this person was totally different. So you can only hide for so long. It's
That's
gonna
right.
the true colors are gonna show soon. So make sure that you're taking care of you, because that energy is real. You don't have to fake it, and it's freeing. And you realize that you use way less energy because that's just how you operate on a daily basis. So you don't have to play a certain character.
Yeah, absolutely. Derick, we ran out of time. I think you and I could keep going and going.
Oh yeah,
Thank you so much. I mean, exceptional show today. Thank you. Anybody who has watched it, and if you think that there's a lot of, and I know there's a lot of value, but if you believe there's a lot of value, do me a favor, share the show with your friends, your colleagues, your family, especially your loved ones, and somebody who may need to change their ways. Share this with them, because one word, one thought can change their day, can make it a better day. Derick,
Exactly.
amazing, my friend. Thank you. I can't wait to have you on some of my other shows. I know that you bring so much value, and I thank you so much.
I appreciate it, Sifu. It was an honor being here. And I just want to leave people with the challenge is to become the man or woman that you be proud of and give them to the world. Become the man or woman that you be proud of and give them to the world. And whatever you got to do that, just make it happen, because there's too much toxic negativity out here. You got to be that positive ripple effect.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Have an amazing and exceptional rest of your day. Take care.